Excited.
Oh yeah, baby. We got the one and only Jimmy Cotta the third. Jim is a powerhouse tech founder, AI specialist, and just to be honest, a great dude. Me and Jim have gone way back. We've been friends for a couple years now, and I'm pretty pumped because Jim is the real deal, and we're gonna get into some AI stuff. We're gonna blow your minds a little bit, and I don't want to waste any more time because every minute with Jim is enlightening in the best way. So, Jim, welcome to the show, brother.
So happy to be here with you, Jake. Man, we do go so far back. It feels like I've known you for like 2 decades. How has it only been maybe 4 or 5 years or
Yeah.
something? But that's the thing about being with expanders
Yep.
is time doesn't feel real, right? We have had so many great conversations about all the ups and downs of businesses over the years, and grateful to be here and talk
Yeah.
about AI and how it relates to all this.
I love it, man. Now you've done a lot of different things in your life. You've worked with some of the biggest names in the industry. You've founded several different companies. You've leveraged different types of software. And right now, like your bread and butter is the AI stuff. And so I want to really just dig into this. Okay. So before we dig into like the tactical stuff, I want to understand like why AI? Like why is that important to you? Why did you double down on that? Where do you see it going?
Well, why wouldn't it be? I think is the real question because as humans, how often do we get this insanely unique opportunity in a single lifetime to be at the tipping point of, I don't even say the next big thing, but the big thing that's in front of us? I mean, this is like standing at the edge of the internet is now a thing, and you being like, should we be less connected in life or should we be more connected in life? Or the dot-com boom and being like, wow, my 3 letter domain name is available for my business and it only cost me 20 bucks to buy this. Should I take a little bit of a risk and should I try it? Or should I maybe let somebody else pick it up because eventually I might have to deal with that. A lot of the times we get stuck in overthinking so many things, but we don't realize the gravity of what these opportunities are until somebody kind of helps us understand what they mean for us. And that's actually just what I'm loving the most. I've been in the AI space for well over a decade. I've been a software engineer for 25 years. So my entire professional life has been around technology, but I was in AI before it was cool. That was when I was hiring machine learning specialists and engineers writing Python and big data science, warehousing stuff. It was expensive, and it was really prohibitive. Now, a $20 a month chat GPT account and you could do some damage. So I ask, why not? Why wouldn't we want to have these
Mhm.
conversations? And that's why I'm grateful to be here so we
Yeah.
can think about that together.
All right, talk to me about this because one of the things that I see happening all the time is you go to a conference, everyone's like, oh, AI, 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 right? And then you go to another event and people are like, oh, I got to incorporate all this AI stuff in here. But here's something that I've come to understand most people have no idea what AI really is or what it can do or how to actually properly use it. So let's go to AI 101. Essentially, what is it, right? And how is it changing things for us?
Yeah, AI can be explained a lot of ways, but I'll give you one example for how I think it could be explained really well in this case, which is there's this concept of intelligence. Intelligence is something that is learned, right? There are things that we're born with, like like we don't have to learn how to breathe. We come out of the womb, we figure it out. Doctor slaps us on the back, we wake up, here we are. There are things that are just innate to humans. And then there are things like learning language, learning expression, learning how to hold a conversation, learning how to look somebody in the eyes rather than look away. There's all these things about human nature that we pick up. And a lot of it is tribal, ancestral, and a lot of it is just social, socioeconomical. We decide what we want to learn over the course of our education. Well, let's then zoom ahead. Artificial intelligence is exactly what it is in those two words. It is intelligence which is artificially worked with. AI is a tool. It's an amplification of what a machine already knows. So zooming way back now again, AI has been around since the 50s, the 60s. When Turing and all of these guys got together in rooms and started asking these questions like, can computers think for themselves? That was the big, bold question. nearly 70 years ago? And the answer is yes, they can, but within some constraints. It's how fast can everything evolve and how quick can we pick up on how useful it can be. But it wasn't until about 2017 when researchers kind of broke the code. They had that breakthrough moment. They developed what was called the transformer model, and this is as technical as my answer is going to get. But that was like the tipping point. That was when all of this work and everything that used to be so expensive and so complicated, and you needed to have three PhDs to be able to make sense of it. I am not that guy, right? I use a calculator for my math, but it made it become what is now something that we all regard as fascinating and curious. And we don't realize that AI is already in our life, whether or not we want it, right? Netflix. You have a Netflix account?
Of course.
Okay. So for everybody listening that has a Netflix account, try to go back and remember the first time that you actually put it on your TV or you put it on your phone. You probably installed it, you put it on there, and it gave you all kinds of different ideas. It's like, oh, do you want to watch a Western? Do you want to watch a rom-com? Do you like documentaries? Do you like horror movies? But it's not until you actually start giving it feedback that it can give you some value, right? Think about Amazon. You search for a coffee cup, you better believe you're going to get coffee related searches coming up later. There's all of these ways that AI is just already ingrained to us that we just look as quality of life. We trust tech companies to make the best decisions with our data. And the benefit of that is we get great recommendations. We get things that make our lives full. So whether or not you like it, you use an AI. Hate to be the bearer of news that maybe you didn't expect, but let that be like the sign that, well, why not use it a little bit more? Why not intentionally start to bring it into your day-to-day life? Because that's where it's going to start to shine. And I love looking at AI like that through that lens,
Yeah.
which is it already makes my life good now. Let's make it great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it. I'm curious. Most people know what ChatGPT is, right? That to me was kind of like the AI introduction to the public at like the biggest mass scale. What what was you said 2017 was kind of like the transformer model. What was the catalyst for ChatGPT and why was that such a big thing for society? Like why did we start to accept it at that point?
Well, here's the funny thing, bro, is we kind of didn't, right?
Okay.
ChatGPT dropped as what they called as a research preview. I think it was in 2022, maybe even 2023. I'm kind of losing track of time right now. But let's just say 2022, 2023. All of a sudden, OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT, gave us ChatGPT, which is a way to chat with their GPT model, their way of working with AI. AI comes in a lot of different forms, right? Netflix has their own AI to make recommendations. Amazon has their algorithm to make those kind of recommendations. Let's just say GPT is their AI way of recommending what you want as a response. So rather than worrying about how are all these developers going to implement all of their stuff before that, they said, hey, why don't we actually just give everybody the ability to chat with AI and turn this on its head and make it more natural language? Let's give everybody this opportunity to see what it would be like if they wanted to use it in their day-to-day life. Now, the first version kind of sucked, and everybody knows that. But that's the beauty of a research preview is you're sharing, you're launching before you're ready. They absolutely launched before they were quote unquote ready. And it still took people time to pick up on it. I knew about it, but I still didn't use it because I was kind of in disbelief too. I was like, is this a real thing? Are they are they actually going to put work behind this? And the adoption rate then, once people started to understand what power was in this and why they were giving it away, also why they were giving it away for so cheap, that was also an interesting way to think about it. Like, could it be that good if they're bankrolling this and they're giving us what should take a lot of cash to everybody for, let's just say, free to experiment with? We started to be believers. And that's turned into what it is today, where now it's bigger than we could have imagined in 2022. Back then, people weren't even thinking about AI in droves. Now you can't get it out of your ear, right? It's in the
Right.
news, it's in the threads, we're talking about it on shows like this, but that's momentum, right?
Mhm.
that flywheel effect has kicked in, and now we're taking it seriously. We just have to choose when, not if.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's start to narrow it down. That was a great overview. I feel like I learned a lot there. I like that a lot. So let's start to narrow it down here. Okay, everyone listens to the show is about optimization. They're about book writing. They're about business. They're about growth. Let's talk about some of the ways that we can use AI in different aspects of our life. All right, and so the first area that I want to kind of talk to is like that entrepreneurial person. What are some of the ways that you recommend entrepreneurs start using AI or amplify their existing use of AI?
Man, loaded question, but absolutely a great one to start because entrepreneurs like us, we're going a mile a minute, right? You have different types of entrepreneurs. You're a visionary, right? You're thinking big, you're pushing the edges, you're trying to see, can I go into this industry and do it this way, and how big, how big can I go with it? And I love that about you. I'm not exactly like that, right? There are elements of that that I absolutely love, but I'm more of the builder. I'm more of the architect. I'm the one thinking like two or three levels a little bit more abstract because that's how my brain loves
Yep.
data. So the short answer is your way of using it is probably needs to be different than my way of using it, and that's great, right? It's the difference between a mathematician wanting to lean into using a calculator and a farmer wanting to lean into using a tractor. Both pieces of technology, but vastly different utility and way different intrinsic value for what it's going to do for you. I
Sure.
don't need a tractor. I live in the suburbs of California. A mathematician may not live on a farm. So you have to first understand, what is it that I'm trying to solve in this world as an entrepreneur, and then I think you go that level deeper. So that's the first
So
way that I want everybody to think about it.
So then let's go deeper here on this, okay? Because you can use AI in any aspect of your business, right? You can use AI for social content, you can use AI for idea generation, you can use AI to search things, to build out products, to do things that otherwise you would have had to hire other people to do in a lot of ways. So for somebody who's kind of trying to be more optimized in their day to day, okay? What are some of the ways that you can use AI to do this? And are there tools? And I know you have a million tools, right? And we'll link that up after this, but like, are there any tools that you recommend people starting with, or any areas that you recommend if they're like, look, I have a business, I want to take it to the next level. I can't replicate me just yet. We'll talk about something in a little bit. But where do you start? Is it ChatGPT? Is it a social media platform? Is it a assistant? What are some of the ways that you've seen it used most effectively?
Yeah, we still have to think about what it is that we need to fix if it's even broken, right? So we can't optimize what we don't track. So we have to start with tracking, right? So if we're not keeping receipts, you don't even know what you need to ask for. So the reason I say that is because AI, let's just say ChatGPT for this example, but whether it's ChatGPT or if you're a Google person, if you use Gemini, there's a fantastic AI model. Perplexity, Claude, any of the ones that you've heard that you want to experiment with, they're all great choices. At this point, pick one that feels best. It's got a good interface that you like it. And just like if you've been avoidant to using a CRM because you hate the way it looks, find one that looks good so you actually want to use it. Life is simple. We just overcomplicate everything. So find one that you want to work with so you're incentivized to try is my step one. Yeah, you have to want to incorporate it into your life. And then two, when you're using something like ChatGPT, it's fabulously good at taking raw, unstructured data and helping you make sense of it. So if you do have a lot of data points, if you do have everything ready, start with that because we're talking about optimizing here to your question. But if you don't know what you need to optimize yet, start somewhere. Start giving it feedback. So one of my favorite things to do is to take my phone, open the Chat GPT app, and hit the little icon that says voice mode, right? Jake, you're like me, man. Love talking, love relationships, love having deep conversations. I'll take my dog for a walk and I'll throw voice mode on and I'll just get everything out of my head. A lot of people don't even know that there is a voice mode with Chat GPT, but it's my favorite way of using it. So the beautiful thing here is the same way that you might do better with audio notes than typing out and texting, you can use AI like that. Maybe you're better at actually texting things out or copying and pasting or dropping things in. You have to, one, find what you really want to do better with. You have to enjoy the process, just like anything. If you don't like where you live, you're probably not going to be creative. So you have to change your environment. Same thing here. Find the environment that you want to be creative and optimize. And then two, just start experimenting. And I've got all kinds of prompts. If anybody's interested, you can always reach out to me. We'll link up after this and I can get you a prompt that will help you move forward a little bit better. But start by just getting things out of your head. That beautiful, beautiful brain that we all have, that is the intelligence that we talked about. There's no way we can actually get anything out of that unless we actually get it. We get it out. We talk about it. We get these things into some kind of a format where then we can make some moves for it. It's just like that Netflix example.
Yeah.
All those movies are there. It just doesn't know how to recommend it until you tell it what you like. We need to get better at wanting to lean into AI so that way we can tell it what we like.
Yeah, this brings up something that I've noticed for me early on, but I noticed that a lot of people have the same thing is like you don't know what the AI can do. You don't know what it's capable of doing, and it can do a lot more than we all think it can. But the problem with that is we don't know what to ask because we don't know what's possible on the other side, right?
Exactly.
And so how do we identify the right prompts? How do we identify the right things to ask? Specifically, let's do a specific example here. Let's say I want to improve my social media output. Okay. But I don't know where I should start with how to leverage AI for that or ChatGPT. Like, where do you recommend we go, or what do you recommend we start thinking about so that we can actually ask the right questions, create the right prompts to get the answers that we actually are seeking?
Yeah, of course. And I don't expect everybody to figure it out. I'm involved in this all day and it changes all the time. So, like, you're right where you need to be, is the short answer here. But the beautiful thing about where AI is getting better and better in this natural language way, something like using a chat GPT, for example, is as these AI models get better, the prompts get more comprehensive and they start giving you better outputs. So, I'll give you an example. There's a prompt framework called RTF, and that simply stands as role, task, format. It's kind of as simple as that sounds, but it's really simple to remember. So for example, role, act as a Facebook ads manager. That's how it shows up. That's the role. Now, what's the task? Let's say I want to design a Facebook ad campaign to promote a new line of fitness apparel for a sports brand. Okay, great. That's your task. And now what's the format? I want you to create a storyboard that outlines the sequence of these ad creatives and then include ad copy and some visual ideas and a strategy. Okay, so there's a couple things that go into that. One is we're able to follow a blueprint, right? RTF, role, task, format. We clearly said, hey, AI, I want you to show up and masquerade as this type of intelligence. And it said, got it. Then what's your task? Okay, we're actually creating something. So we don't need you to be creative, AI. We need you to reflect what you know as I'm looking for. And then how do you want it presented to you? That's the format. There's so many of these different frameworks and ways of doing this. This is the stuff I love. This is the stuff I teach and I love sharing because all it takes is one thing for it to kind of click and make sense that we want to keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
And I love how simple that one is. That's typically the one I start with because that gets you really far. But Jake, there's a really important piece here that I didn't say out loud that I hope we start to recognize when we hear that, which is all I did is I had a stream of consciousness of what I needed to
Mhm.
come out. Technically, it could have been TRF. It could have been FTR. You're asking it to do these things, and these directives help, but it all comes down to just getting it out of our head. I'm gonna be that broken record. That's the hill I'm gonna die on. Is unless we can get it out of our head and we can just find ways to verbalize or to type it out, it's stuck in our head. So if we get better at thinking in ways of expression, AI is going to be fantastic. And that's one of my favorite frameworks to just keep it really simple. You can't get it wrong. And you're going to be impressed with that output because more is more. The more you give it, the better it's going to understand.
And when you're talking about this, you can create new what is it? A new prompt every time? Is that the thing? Like when you create something new for a new topic or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. The prompt is the act of asking it for information. That's as simple as that.
Great. So do you encourage people when they're starting to do it, do you recommend asking anything related to like one topic on the same like thread? Does that create an advantage for you in terms of building the relationship? Or should you be asking individual questions so that the information doesn't get convoluted?
The answer is kind of nuanced, but for the sake of this, keeping as much relevant information in one chat is going to give you the best quality output for the purposes of that chat. Now, depending on which one you use, for example, OpenAI just rolled out an update to ChatGPT that now has a beautiful comprehensive memory over almost everything you say, which means you can start a new chat and it's going to remember things from the past and in the future. That's relatively new. And again, that's kind of the nuance here. But for most cases, when you've got a new task, when you've got a new format, you've got a new goal, you've got a new result that you want to get out, fire off a brand new chat, give it that context, and just start cooking. And that's going to be the
Yeah,
best way that you can actually really pull together the benefit of having all that information in one single spot.
I love it. I was I was starting to play. I've always played around with it, but I've really been trying to be more intentional of how I use it and
Yeah.
using. For me, I've just been using ChatGPT, and I find that like when we went to Japan recently, I plugged in all my information to ChatGPT, and it basically served as a travel agent for me the entire time. It would tell me the English to Japanese translation, what to show the taxi drivers. It would update. I would say, "Hey, we just finished here. I want to kill 3 hours, and we want to do something like this. What do you recommend based on rankings and reviews?" And we
Excellent.
were able to just essentially build out our itinerary or update our itinerary on just one single thread the entire 10 days that we were gone. So that was like really mind-boggling to me because it did a pretty darn good job. Did it make a couple mistakes? Yeah. Might it have been a user error on my end? Yeah. But I won't hold it against my good friend Chat. But then I got back and I want to improve my golf game. So I had it build out. I imagined it was Tiger Woods, coach. And I said, hey, I want you to build out an hour practice routine that's going to take me from where I'm at now to where I want to go. And it's interesting because at first I thought, okay, I'll use ChatGPT for business. But now I'm using it as a way to aggregate all the data that I would have to do research for into seconds of thought. And so do you find that AI is and this is what AI is, but do you feel that it's able to replace a lot of research and give people quicker and faster and better answers than they would even find out if they took more time to research? Do you think research is losing what it was intended purposes?
Yeah, if you want the scary and exciting answer, the answer is absolutely yes. And I don't want that to terrify people. I want that to empower people, right?
Mm.
Let's say that you're a little reluctant to go on an international trip because you feel like the weight of all of it is just too much. And if all you can afford is to go make that trip, you can't afford somebody to hold your hand and see you through it. Let's just, give an example like that. Well, guess what? Now you can. You have a travel assistant that is part of your life and it understands and it knows. So it's also going to say, it's going to know that you were recently married. So it'll probably start to inject things that are in the honeymoon period of things that you can do together with your beautiful wife. For me, it knows that I've been married for quite a while and it knows that I have two teenage daughters. So as I start to ask it questions, it doesn't just reference your kids, it says, and this will work for your girls, or it actually injects their names because it knows things that I've said about them. So we have to really be willing to go a level higher, not a level deeper, but a level higher. Like, really think about if I had this intelligence, which artificially is available to me 24/7, what could I do with it? And I have a very similar example, which is me and the fam are going on a European cruise in about a month and a half. We're going to Italy, we're going to do Greek Isles, and then we're popping over to France. We're going to take the kids to Disneyland Paris. There's a lot of logistics in that, right? Now, fortunately, the cruise ships can do most of the travel, but like we want to go places when we hit to port and all those things. And I recently did a very, very similar example, which is I started a brand new thread and I gave it the itinerary. I said, these are the things we're doing. And then I started to really challenge it. I said, okay, this is how many people are going. These are the things. You already know how old my kids are, benefits, right? Of actually giving it that information ahead of time. And then I said, my girls really want to do 2 beach days out of the 10 days that we're going to be at these different ports. So find the best beaches that work for teens that also are easy to get to and that the clearest water, and find me a cabana when we're at one of them because we might as well be bougie. We're going to be in Europe. Why not? All these things. And it just continued to churn. It continued to give me that feedback loop. And dude, I think I did this while we were like waiting for a table at a restaurant one night going out to dinner. So that's the beautiful thing is going back to the question about how does this work for entrepreneurs? I think it works the best for entrepreneurs because we're already ingrained with this this need for a dopamine level of having these wins more than others. So if you're an entrepreneur, you should look at this as the most powerful tool that is available to you, possibly in your lifetime to date. So the question is, what are we going to do with it? Right?
Yeah.
How can we have it help our business? How can we have it help our personal life? How can we have it help our family? Because all of those things roll up into our business if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So things like that give us more space, more freedom to be able to create and do the things that we're best at. So I'm less concerned about somebody who their job is a research assistant. And if you're listening and you're a research assistant, I'm actually not sorry that you're about to lose that job. I am excited that that job can now be replaced by something that can make you superhuman. You can use that to now understand how to pull everything together and do what you do at such an elite level. You've never been able to do that before. That's the precedent we stand at to be able to say, great, technology is going to take some jobs, but it's going to create a hell of a lot more.
Yeah. 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 Back to the business side of things. Okay. This is fascinating. I've used ChatGPT and our teams use ChatGPT to help create articles, blog posts, social media ideas, captions, email sequences, nurture sequences, copy for sales pages. Like use it for all these different things, saving us tons of time because it gives us the rough draft essentially. And then we got to add our touch because I still believe in making it all human and making it us and
Absolutely.
making it all this stuff. But those are so many use cases. Let's talk about some of the unconventional ways that you've used AI. And we were talking, before to this, but and we've talked offline about this quite extensively. But share some of the ways that are more unconventional that you're using AI that's been pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, I love this question. All right, so I'm gonna think about this as I talk through them because I do this stuff all day and I sometimes I get lost in the weeds myself. But the first one that comes to mind is actually just like a theory that I have, which is all the things that I think I need to do I actually have to be that person to do it? Which isn't new. As entrepreneurs, we always think about delegating, buying back our time. But rather than hiring somebody to oversee a process, can I actually have a staff of what's called like AI agents? Can I build a business where my org chart is actually a bunch of these workflows that objectively do a better job than me, or if I was to hire somebody to be able to have them oversee it even. So I like to always bring things back to that. Can I make a robot do it? And most importantly, how many things am I not taking action on in life because it just doesn't feel like the highest priority? It doesn't feel like the most revenue driver. It doesn't feel like it warrants enough of my time. But it's still something that I passionately care about. It brings joy into my life. So the first one, I don't know if I told you this, but did I tell you that I released an album on Spotify?
Yeah.
All that? Okay. 100% AI, the entire thing, right? I used to be a DJ. I love European house music. Electronic music is just ingrained in my soul, right?
Yep.
And I've always wanted to have an album in a music store. Well, I did. So I created a persona. Jimmy 2.0 is my artist name. And it's in Spotify and it's in Apple Music and Tidal and everything else. And I think there's 8 or 9 tracks. And I built all of them with an AI tool. 100% royalty free. It's me. It feels great. I turn it up when I get into the car. There's this feeling of like your own music. If you're an artist and you're listening, you're watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying that I play at the level of a professional producer, but what I'm saying is I was able to check a box off of my bucket list and do it from a place of fun.
Mhm.
And now I've accomplished that piece of my life that when else would I actually sit down and learn how to actually, fully produce music? I won't, but now I can. So that's the first unconventional one is thinking so far outside the box of something that you just never thought you would
So
do, but AI allows you to.
let me jump in here before you move to the next one. Talk to me about a few of the tools that you used to actually do this. What you can share, what you can't share, but
Oh yeah.
what are some of the tools that you used, and did this cost you thousands of dollars to do it?
No, this costed, I did this over the course of 3 months, and I think the service I used was $10 a month, maybe 20. And that was it. Everything else was either something I already had or a free download that I pulled off the internet. So we're talking sub $50 investment to release my own album. And I'll run you through the exact playbook of how I did this. So I found this service. It's called Suno, Suno, Suno.ai or sunoai.com, one of the two. Anyways, I have it on my site as one of the AI tools, and we'll link that up at the end of this. This service, bro, is wild. You give it a prompt, and the prompt can be a rap about physics in the style of 90s hip hop. I just made that up. And it will deliver. It's absolutely crazy. And you may love it, you may hate it, there may be something in between, but the fact is that you're using AI in an unconventional way to build a piece of art that is uniquely what you asked for. And they have a really cool interface where you can kind of spin the wheel and try mashups and different things. And I just said, you know what, man, I'm gonna make my own album. So I started there. And I decided to make kind of ChatGPT my co-pilot here. So I used it to get creative with song names and things like that. And I was going back and forth, copying and pasting. Man, one of the songs I was like, it was last summer, and I was floating in my pool on like the pool floaty, and I was like creating songs while floating in my pool, making songs about summer. Like, just think about that. Like, as an entrepreneur, like, yeah, we like to push the edges. Why not have fun with it, right? And I created them, finished everything, got really good with it. I went and I created the artwork for the album inside of GPT. And then I used Audiophonic or one of, it was a simple audio editing tool to just kind of finalize them and do it. And then I also found a free audio mastering tool that's AI driven. And I think it's just called AImastering.com or something like that. I got it on my site as well. And it mastered the whole track. And it was, again, that was it. So I picked a distributor. Actually, I didn't know what to do, so I went to Perplexity and I said, I want to release my own album. I already have the tracks. How do I do it? And it stepped me through it step by step. First, you pick a distributor, then you do this, then you finalize it, then you put it up there, you get it done. I hit submit, and I don't know, a week later, that thing showed up in Spotify. And I was just like, wow, that happened.
That's
All
awesome.
all out of fun, all out
Yeah,
of a place of curiosity, and let's just say all in under $100.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
it.
All right.
That's it, man.
Now let's lay down the hammer here. We got one more time. We got time for one more example of an unconventional use case, and I would love for you to share the one we've been chatting about because
Oh yeah,
I
this
think
was
it's
my
I think
favorite.
it's mind blowing what's possible here. So walk us through this and let's finish with the bang.
So I have become world class at building a second digital mind. I can take your beautiful brain, Jake, and extract everything that you want out of it, all of those books that you have behind you, all of the sessions that you've done, your, mastermind teaching, coaching, everything you can think of, and building a second you, a digital clone of you. I've done it for some incredible celebrity entrepreneurs, some really big names, and I built one for myself as well. So, for example, we'll link this up in the show, and actually, I hosted it publicly. If you go to askjc3.com, Jim Carter the third here. So askjc3.com, you can pick my brain 24 hours a day. I try not to use the word literally, but literally, like you, you have that ability. And how often do we get the whole, can I pick your brain? Can I ask you that question? we kind of don't like that as humans. We're kind of, actually, no, I have things that I offer. Like, this is what I do. You can sit there and ask me anything. You can have an audio conversation with me. I even have a way to have it work like FaceTime, where you can have a full video chat in live real time. And I love doing this. And back to that unconventional, but almost borderline awesome idea. Ask yourself, what would it be like if you had a digital copy of your brain that not only you could give to your customers, you could sell to your customers to have access to it, but also it works for you. It's something that you can go back and access the information that you have done, you have served, you've taught over the years. Here's an example of how I've done that. I'm starting to get better finally at posting more on social media, and I'm proud of myself for that. But a lot of it's overcoming those blocks of like, I don't want to spend the time to like come up with quotes. So I had this idea actually just last week, where now what I'm doing is I'm going into my own digital brain and having it extract some banger quotes that I've put out in the past. I'm not just sitting here feeling like I have to create when I'm not going to, and my lizard brain's running 10
So
miles a
are you
minute.
saying I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You've uploaded or you've taught this to see everything you've ever put out, every podcast interview, all of these things. So it can just, instead of you coming up with new quotes or trying to find old ones, you can ask the digital version of you and it will sort through the information and find 15 quotes that you've said over the lifetime of you on the internet, and
Exactly.
it can just pull it based on what you're looking for at that moment.
Exactly. And they come out
Sheesh.
better and cleaner and less judgmental from my own brain because I just said them at one point. I mean, to put this full circle for you, bro, when we're done with this show and this goes live, I'm going to feed this right back into my digital brain. And because it automatically highlights things that I say a little bit more recent because of recency bias, it's going to answer future questions and it'll probably find me some great quotes, something that I said from this show. I didn't have to sit down and create all brand
Mm.
new. I didn't even have to document anything. Again, we can't optimize what we can't measure. So let's actually see where we have this data that maybe we're not doing anything with. And this gives us just untold opportunity for what we're doing in the future.
So what happens? I wanna ask this question. What happens? I was thinking about this today actually. What happens when you have personal growth and opinions around certain things change? Right? And I was thinking about this today actually on my drive home because I was like, man, the person I am today is different than the person I was 5 years ago, and is different than the person I was in college, is different than the person I was in high school. And I was like, wow, some of the beliefs I had then, I actually don't believe them now. But I've probably said it at the time because that's what I believed because it was information that I had based on the experiences I had. So how with this digital clone, like how do you build it in a way where it has this full catalog, but it also can understand you today and respond as you today, not just based on what you've said in the past in case it's contradicting.
That's the beauty and the brilliance, man. This is what I've been assessing over for the past year and year plus is how to use AI in those unconventional ways that actually can become so conventional
Mm.
that we just can't believe we haven't been able to live without it. And the real answer there technically is exactly what I just mentioned a sec ago, which is recency. It's biased off of recency.
Cool.
So if the same question comes up and you answered it one way 3 years ago and you answer it a different way recently, it's just going to pick up the more recent one. But the beautiful thing is, as long as you're putting that information in over time, you're continuing to create, you're again, you're getting it out of your head. It's the same exact kind of concept, but now applied in like a stick of dynamite, right? You now have power in this thing. It gives you this ability for it to be able to craft these really unique responses
Love
and
it.
grow with you.
Mm.
So we are humans. We grow, we change. We do have different opinions and strategies and ways that we like to teach. But I think that's part of the brilliance of humanity, which is
Mm.
if we're not growing, I think we are kind of dying a little bit. There is that
Sure.
regression. This allows us to think about it in a different way. It almost is like a way of immortalizing where you've been, where you are, and also where you're going, because it gives you this opportunity to tap into this knowledge that
Yep.
normally we would have forgotten. Like, dude, if I was just like, hey, give me 5 quotes right now, go, you'd be like, you could probably come up with a couple. But I can ask your AI clone all day, give me five more, give me five more, give me five more. Now give it about authorship. Now give it about creative. Now give it about copyright. It's going to be able to tap into that.
Yeah,
So why wouldn't we want to think future into a world
totally.
where we should have that? And going back to being an entrepreneur, why wouldn't we want to give that brilliance to your team?
Yeah.
Right? So for
Oh,
me, I'm tapping into my digital clone to pull quotes that I've said. So then I don't have to think about it and I can just copy and paste them, pick a little B-roll, a clip of me talking on stage or on a podcast or whatever, and hit post and not think about it. And guess what? I already started posting a couple and they're doing great. One more thing, checkbox out of the way that I didn't have to obsess over. I feel like for entrepreneurs, where we continue to get stuck in all of these things that we know we should be doing, we don't focus on the things that we just
yeah,
gets normally we would just get so held up on.
totally.
AI is giving us this absolutely ridiculously cool ability to think not just outside the box, but think in totally new boxes.
Yeah. I need my digital clone. And I think everyone who's listening needs a digital clone for themselves after hearing
I
that.
would jam out with AI
Uh,
Jake all day.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Well, look, how do we, there's obviously so much more that you've learned, and obviously people can go ask your digital mind all of the questions they have. But if we want to connect with you, the human, Jim Carter III, where do we go find you on the internet? How do we learn from you? How do we work with you? Tell us where to go.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Like we said, askjc3.com if you want to pick my digital brain. And just like you said, at Jim Carter the third on Instagram and all the big socials. I'm there. You can find me, shoot me a DM. Happy to jam out on this stuff. I love this. It fills me with a lot of joy to see people who start to lean into AI and actually start to realize some gains. And that's what I love the most is trying to find ways that people can just incorporate this into their daily life, into their business, helping them be better parents, be better, in their relationships. No matter what it is, there's ways that you can incorporate this into your life that will give you profound impact, and it just starts with wanting to lean in.
Got it, man. It's so good. And I appreciate you being on the show. This was awesome. Just like every conversation we always have is. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And for everybody else, you know how we like to wrap up here with a challenge. There's quite a few challenges that I could give you based on what Jim has shared today, but I'm gonna give you one because I think it's the most actionable and the easiest one for us to do right after this, which is the RTF. I thought that was a great thing. So the challenge that I have for everybody is this: pick your AI platform of choice. Whatever it is, Jim named several. I use ChatGPT, so we'll stick with that. And then use the RTF blueprint, role, task, framework, right? Is that correct?
Format, but it works the same.
Right, role, task, format. Okay, and that's the framework of RTF.
Exactly.
And try it out for something that you want help with. Whatever it is, personal, business, whatever, try it out. Let us know what you come up with. We'd love to see what it spits out if you thought it was valuable, and then we'll love to show you how we can improve it based on that first attempt. So there you have it, folks. Jim Carter III in the house. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.
My man.